And some more reminders. If for some reason you missed doing the first initial response to my prompts for your discussion forum A or B on the 9th, you still can participate. All right, you'll just have some point deductions for not doing the first posting on time. All right, because I still want you to communicate, share whatever it is that you're thinking about for that discussion forum prompt. And also I want your classmates to be able to respond to you so that we can start to get some dialogue discussions going on. So remember that that is due on the 13th. Also remember that, let's see, remember to do the extensions and connections, and hopefully you read the email that I sent in the announcements, and you also have now seen the postings of the discussion forum grading rubrics so that you know real clear on how you should be participating in these discussion forums. So they're not just quick little 3 sentences. They should be reflective and detailed, and they need to be connected to the theories and the concepts that you're learning in the textbooks and in the videos, and of course lectures, etc. All right, so those are reminders. Today we're going to start to talk about how to raise your self-esteem. That was one of the ticket to leave questions that you guys asked last week, is if you are surrounded by people who are downers or who hyper criticize you or who are people who are quick to point out faults or any of the things that we talked about in the last couple of weeks actually. Now let's take a step back and let's look at how we can raise our self-esteem. And a lot of that depends on us taking responsibility, all right? So we take a lot of thought, reflection, and honesty, okay? So we're going to do that by completing an activity. So first thing we're going to do is everybody to please pull out a piece of paper. You can use this in your notes, but you are going to have one full piece of paper. So imagine this is your paper. And what you're going to do is what's known as a T-chart analysis. T-chart analysis. Okay, looks like a T. Sort of looks like a little T. Okay. And what you're going to do is list in this column all of the good things about you. Now, this isn't the roles that you play or the titles that you own or any of these things. Now you're going to hone in on what are your talents and what are your skills. Okay, so these are your positive talents, your skills, and your knowledge. Okay, what do you know? And it could be anything, and it could be about anything. It doesn't have to be school related or relationship related or anything. It just be about anything and everything. I want you to think about what is awesome about you. And then what I want you to do is to identify what are some opportunities for your own personal growth. This is, these are all your talents and skills, but what is out there that you know you really want to learn or you really want to get better at? So you're going to list those things here, all right? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do this. So if you're watching this on video, you should be doing this on your own. And again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. So take that entire 3 minutes and keep listing. And hopefully you'll have a lot more things on this side. So when I say to start, Now, start. And time. All right. So, okay, we talked a lot, and we will continue to talk about the concept of words as the building blocks for understanding ourselves and others. So, you used words to make this list, and those words were helpful in starting to have feelings as well as attitudes about yourself. And if you were doing this about somebody else, about that person. So, in order to build up your self esteem, you need to have what's known as self awareness. You need to be aware of your strengths. And you need to feel good about them and not let anybody take those strengths away from you. Not let anybody discount them, not let anybody say that that doesn't matter. No, these are your strengths, these are your good qualities. So we are always looking for validation, and we need to have this information validated. And when our self-awareness is very accurate, we have an honest self-understanding of who we are and our talents and skills, as well as our opportunities for development, then that makes us wise. That makes us able to function well, if not exceptionally well. It also makes us motivated to learn to be new and different and to try new skills and gain new knowledge. So that self-awareness to be validated, it needs to occur in a couple of ways, all right? And I'm going to talk to you today about two methods that you can use to validate your understanding of yourself, all right? So we do that by what is known as self-disclosure. And if you want to follow along in your textbook, we're in section 2.5 on page 58, and it talks about what are the theories of self-disclosure. One of the things is at the bottom of the page, it gives you a definition, and it says, or actually in the middle of the page, self-disclosure is purposeful disclosure, purposeful telling of your personal information to another person. That's all it means. But we have to be careful. You know the concept of TMI, too much information, and you do know those people who tend to say way too much about themselves that they really shouldn't. Okay, well, that's part of what we need to have. We're going to talk about emotional intelligence later, is to know what's appropriate to self-disclose and what we really should not. Or maybe when to disclose information so it's not too soon, or that there's some trust established, all right? So one of the ways to do that is by taking into account a theory called social penetration theory. And I'm going to give you a little diagram because this is how it helps me to remember what this theory is about. So I want you all to think about the movie Shrek. And if you remember the movie Shrek, he said that he is like an onion. And he said that is because he has many layers. And it's not easy to get at the center or to cut through some of those layers to find out who is the real Shrek. Well, social penetration theory says that for us to be able to really be aware of how we compare against others, we have to tell people about ourselves. We have to self-disclose, right? So what Shrek said is that in order to get to know me, you got to get past a certain layer. And then you have to keep trying to get past even into another layer until hopefully you'll get into the core of who Shrek is. And that's the same thing for us. We all have some inside core. And we also have layers of information we are comfortable in telling to others, or that is appropriate. And that's very important. That's appropriate to tell to others. Okay. If this person is learning about Shrek, and Shrek is allowing them in closer and closer and closer, there is an expectation that you are also going to allow Shrek in, that you're also going to get past or allow people past a certain shell or a certain amount of barriers that you hold up, so that also Shrek can find out who you are at your core. So this is known as the social penetration. The more we're able to penetrate into our core, for some reason this is really doing feedback. Let's see if this helps. The more we're able to penetrate into our core, allow others to do that, and we reciprocate. Okay, reciprocate. so that this give and take is reciprocal. We're giving it and taking it, all right? Then what we're able to do is to get past barriers and get to know real people. Social penetration says that if you have a conversation with somebody only on this level, okay, this outer level, and nobody ever gets closer to who you are, it's going to be a shallow relationship. It's not deep, right? So if it's just here, you're not really sharing true self information. Also, because this theory says it needs to be reciprocated, if you don't allow somebody past the outer core, well, the other person is allowing somebody into more intimate information, there's something wrong there. And that's usually the result of a lack of trust. So think of good old Shrek. Shrek was very careful. He did not trust people. He did not want people to get in close to him. And it's usually because these people are afraid of getting hurt. They are afraid that if people find out too much about them, that information will be used against them. It will be used against them. Sometimes it is. So knowing how much you tell about yourself is important. Job interviews is the perfect thing. There's only so much information you should talk about that's personal, and other things they don't need to know. If they ask a pointed question and it's a job requirement, then yes, then you can you can answer that question. But if it's not a job requirement, they shouldn't be asking you to begin with. So you don't have to disclose something that you don't want to. So the social penetration is that the more deep the conversations are versus being very surface, the richer the relationship is. The more long-lasting the relationship will be. And what we're looking for is balance, reciprocation. Okay? Any questions about this theory? Now, some of you might even right now be thinking, you know, one of my opportunities is that I need to trust people more. And let me give you some examples. This was always an issue for me. I needed to work on trust. I was very good at communicating what I wanted other people to know, but not going too far, right? So not only did I have trust, but I also had some very thick walls, right? I was good at, I like to teach. Hopefully you guys think I'm a pretty good teacher, all right? And I'm good with business numbers. Don't give me algebra, but I'm really good with money, all right? So those are my strengths. Those are words to describe who I am. And people can see these behaviors on the outside. I can display those. But I'm also a pretty darn good listener for my students. But you're not going to know that until we have a one-to-one conversation and I allow you to self-disclose. I ask you questions to probe, to find out more of your thoughts, more of your feelings. And by doing that, I'm listening so that I'm giving you a platform to speak, I'm giving you a chance to use your voice, I'm giving you a chance to express your fears, your hesitations, etc. All right? My husband, however, would say, I'm not a good listener. And he would put over here, that that's an area I need to develop in my relationship with him. All right, now we've been married for 48 years, so obviously something's still working okay. But this is an issue that I know I have to work on for him. For my students, I'm good. But for him, I need to work on. So a lot of this is situationally determined. Just like how much you self-disclose is situationally determined on what's the relationship and what's the purpose and what will the person use with that information. Right? Okay. So if Shrek tells me things and I tell Shrek things about me, then we start to see similarities. We start to see shared humanity. And we start to have some self-awareness, some understanding that what I think about myself, Shrek may chime in and say, yeah, you are like that. That's exactly what you do. All right. And we'll do what are called affirmations. Because remember, we're talking about how do we raise our self-esteem? Well, we are looking to be affirmed. We are looking for somebody to give us feedback on what we tell them about ourselves that's going to say, yeah, that is you. That's good. Keep on. Keep doing that. But they will also be honest to say, but you know, you're really good at listening to your students, but for you and me personally, I think we need to work on being a little bit better listeners. So you take the constructive feedback with the intent of how it's going to help you, not hurt you. Right? So what's the intent? So now let's take a look at, and so again, excuse me, we are socially comparing ourselves. Right? Shrek tells me all of his strengths. I tell Shrek all of my strengths. We say, wow, look at what we have in common. Look at how we're different. Look at how we're complementary. Look at how we contradict. Those kinds of things. Okay? So we are going to compare. Now, I'm going to teach you another technique. Again, it really focuses on self-disclosure. It's going to focus on self-awareness and your ability to find out a little bit more about yourself on where is truth. All right? So I'd like for you to turn in your books to figure 2.7, which is located on page 60. And this theory is named after a man named Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham. And they developed this theory way back in the 1960s, actually 69. And it is called the Johari window. Johari window. It's an O, it's a J. The Johari window is Joseph and Harry window. And they were able to diagram, which is what I'm going to do here in this diagram right here, is to help you to recognize how this is a tool that is used in management and leadership and business and coaching for people all the time. I use this in my consulting practice. All right. So we're going to draw another box. So in this box, it's a window, and it has, I gotta make that even, it has 4 panes. Okay, so 4 pictures. On this side, these 2 boxes, this refers to what is, your book says, known to others. About you, right? If we see this as a continuum and this is 0 and this is 100% what people know about you, the higher we go up here, the more people know about you. This over here is the known to self. So just as you were going through this list, this would be the things that you know about yourself, both on this side and this side. Things that you're good at, things you're working on, things that you are excel in, etc. And we have, again, the same kind of continuum, right? Of 0 to 100. So way over here, you don't know a lot about yourself in what might be identified on this end of the box, but you know a lot. This is something that you have crystal clarity about yourself as you move over, right? Now, in each one of these boxes, they have a name, and in this box here, it is known as your open self. So you think about it. If this is what you know about yourself, obviously, it's open. If this is what others know about you, it's open. You're like an open book. Everybody knows these things about you, right? That's what we mean by open. Everybody knows as well as you. But over here is what we're going to call the blind box. So over here, whatever is listed, you are blind to seeing for whatever reason. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right. So you don't know these things about yourself. Excuse me. Over here then is our hidden box, and those are your secrets. Those are the things that you don't want everybody to know. These are the things that they don't need to know. Okay? As you can imagine, you may have a whole lot of hidden things that nobody else knows up here about you. And this box is what your book calls the unknown. Right? Now, I think it's valuable to put these here at the top corners and the bottom corners rather than in the middle of the pane so that you can understand how this model works. So the open box, we're going to make that big green for go, are the things that are obvious about you. These are things that people can watch and see and hear, so they involve the 5 senses about who you are. There's no mystery. Hear you, see you, feel you, etc. kinds of things. And these are the things that are just, you have told people. You just flat out tell others about yourself. Okay? I'm 5'10". Oh, 5'10", I wish. I'm 4'10". Okay? I'm short. The blind box, however, is really interesting because the blind box says that these are things that you may deny. You don't put them even here as something to work on because you don't think they exist. Somebody says you have an attitude problem. Well, first of all, what does that mean? But people will do that. They'll say you have an attitude problem. You don't put that over there because you don't see it. You have no issue. You don't understand why anybody would say that you have an attitude. Right? So you deny it. So you don't even recognize it. Don't even put it up there. It might mean that you do know that something is an area you could improve, and you feel highly defensive about it. Not only do you defend yourself, but you also excuse. You give excuses to explain why you behave a certain way or why something needs to be fixed. Okay? I have definitely something in terms of why I originally had trust issues. Okay? So I can be defensive, or I can excuse it or explain it away. And keeping in mind that these are things that others, okay, others know these things about you. This is what they see about you. But again, you are choosing to ignore them, but they're there. So if you want to become self-aware, you're going to receive constructive criticism as long as it's given with love. That's how I always talk about constructive criticism. When you are giving constructive criticism because you care and you want somebody to be able to improve or change or be happier or what have you, right? Then you don't want to be blind to it anymore. You want to move those items closer for you to have knowledge and understanding of them. Now, this, as I said, are your secrets. And many of these should stay secrets until you are comfortable letting somebody into this inner core. I mean, if you are HIV positive and you're about to have sex with somebody, right, you better self-disclose that, correct? That means that in that moment of time, because of an action you're going to take, you owe it to the partner to let that person know what he or she's getting into, all right? What potentiality there is there, okay? And in fact, it's against the law not to disclose that, all right? But there might be some other things. How you got HIV, you may not want to tell. And the reason maybe you got it was because of a rape. And you're just not comfortable explaining, at this moment in time to perhaps a casual partner or somebody you don't trust yet, how you got it, because there's too much feeling involved with it. So you may keep the HIV information, you may raise that up so that other person knows, okay, to be lawful and respectful. But how you got it, the rape, you're going to keep way down here. Nobody needs to know until you're ready to share that information. Okay? So some of these things will just stay here. And again, it depends on the person. It depends on the circumstance or when you're going to disclose certain kinds of information. Okay? If, however, you are sharing with a partner and you are sharing with a partner that you have HIV and the partner also shares that they too have HIV. Now you're both sharing information that has moved you into a social penetration of greater depth. And that shared experience might affirm that you're not alone, especially when it's shared that you had both been raped. And now you talk through that. That starts to get into intimacy. The act of sex is not intimacy, but the reason or the ways that each of you contracted HIV, that would be an expression of talking about an intimate situation, okay? And to create intimacy. Now, the unknown, I actually like to say to be discovered. You just don't know yet. You just haven't discovered this about yourself. So if my husband is frustrated because he doesn't feel like I trust him, And we did have those kinds of issues. And part of the reason was because I had a dad who left me when I was 15. I had a brother who left me when he was 20. Um, and one was by choice, one was through a car accident. And my husband, even while we were dating, would break up with me a couple of times, in and out, in and out. So yeah, I had trust issues on whether or not he was going to be there for the long haul, as I had trust issues with lots of people, right? So what I had to do was to discover why. Why did I have those trust issues? So this is something I need to work on. And through talk therapy, then I was able to discover, not deny it, not be defensive, and not be excused, but to understand that I was afraid. I was afraid of losing him like I had lost the other two important men in my life. Okay? So this is all part of how we understand in counseling and coaching and in working with other people. This is a wonderful tool to have our thoughts about ourselves affirmed, to feel good about ourselves, and or to become enlightened, to become smarter about ourselves. All right, so you can complete a Johari window. You can do this by just letting me know if you want to send me an email. I can give you a hyperlink to an activity that you can do with 2 or 3 important people in your life. And what you can do is to compare their perceptions of you to your own perception of yourself. So what you do is you take your Johari window and you take from a list of prescribed words and you select words from that list and put them into the appropriate box on whether you think it's open or blind or hidden or whatever. Right? Usually these two we keep closed or we don't get into unless we're doing couple counseling. It's mostly just at this level for this kind of activity. And then you give the window, the same activity, to 4 or 5 other people, and you ask them to fill it out separately by themselves, and then they give you their sheets back to you. And they explain why they see things over here and things over here, and why they may be different from what you said about yourself. Now, let me give you a really good positive example. Oftentimes, I have had students and employees who I have identified as what we call high potential. High potential employees are those who demonstrate through their performance on the job and their communication with colleagues and customers that they are highly potential to be promoted, to rise in the ranks, to climb the corporate ladder, whatever you want to say. And yet, they don't see that in themselves. Maybe nobody else has ever said it to them. Maybe they have had, through those relationships and growing up, a dysfunctional family where family members were always saying, yeah, you're good at something, but it's only because other people are not good at it. Right? And nobody has really invested in you as a person. What I have done in the past and what people have done for me is to identify this word. I have told people that they are leaders. And they say, no way. In which case, then I give them concrete examples of behaviors, of things that were done and not done, said and not done, not said, that demonstrated the ability to lead people, the ability to lead projects, the ability to lead a team effort, right? And through that, I was able to help build a person's self-esteem so that that person would say, huh, maybe I'm not such a nothing after all. So I'm going to test the waters, take on something easy that will require some leadership, and see how I do. The outcome is a major success. We're moving on the continuum, and now the person says, wow, I'm still not sure, still a little in denial. So let me take on a bigger project or a bigger role or responsibility. Let me try it out and see how it goes. Just tipping my toe in the water, so to speak. Not too much because I don't want to fail. And it turns out really well. And I give kudos, and other people tell the person they did really well, and they feel good about the accomplishments themselves because they can see the results and what they did. So something that the person was blind to is now listed as quality. But they believe they have the skills and the talents and the experience now to demonstrate that that is something they're good at. Their self-awareness now has another item to add to their list. And that starts to help a person's self-esteem and build up their ego, their confidence, and get promoted and make a whole lot more money if that's something that's important for you, right? So these are really good tools that we use. And this is known as the Johari window. But it requires trust or self-disclosure. It also requires you to do some internal inventory of what you're good at, what you need to work on, and then through a T-chart. And that's what we do in management leadership and management development and management coaching. All right. Questions from the group? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Shake your heads. Does this make sense? Yes or no? All right. Shake your heads if this is new information for you. Say yes or no. Some of you are kind of going both. All right. Some of you may have known this intuitively. You just knew it in your heart or your head and or gut, and you just know this is the case. But isn't it cool to now take something that you knew intuitively and see how it actually comes together as a real theory with real tools that we use in leadership development and management and coaching and stuff? I always like that part. That's part of the stuff I like. All right. All right. Well, that's all I have for today for you. You are free to go if you want to come up and ask a question. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you would like to ask a question, you may do that. And have a good long weekend. Stay healthy, make good choices.